Good morning, everybody. How are you? What's going on? It's Thursday morning, a very exciting morning. Welcome to the Aidan and Simon show. Yay! Now, Aidan's very excited because
Good morning,
Aidan, whoa, we got stereo, see that? We have stereo, but it's a very exciting morning because Aidan has got some news, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's ask some questions. What's your favourite fruit?
Bananas.
Bananas, everybody. How exciting is that news? That's the best business insight ever. Bananas are the future, right?
Yes.
Yes. Everybody needs to know how important bananas are to the world, don't they?
Yes.
We love bananas. And just with bananas alone, you could do banana t-shirts. Not t-shirts for bananas, but bananas on t-shirts, saying we're all bananas, right?
Yes.
What else could we do? We could do an e-commerce banana site. You could have different shades of bananas, couldn't we? We could do light ones and dark ones and old ones and new ones, right?
Yes.
We could do French ones and Spanish ones and German ones. Consumer research. Why do you like bananas so much? At 2.5.
Yes.
Why do you?
It's yummy.
Because it's yummy?
Yes.
Oh, that's a very good reason to like bananas. Do you like their colour?
Yes. Green and yellow and brown.
Yeah, but which one's your favourite? Just from a research perspective, I'm wondering what end of the market you might fit into. Do you like green or yellow or brown?
Green.
You like green? Oh, okay. You're that type of banana, are you? Very good, very good. Okie dokie. Right, so shall we let our first caller on and say hello? Shall we?
Yes.
Alright, let's do it. Let's see who's here to say hello. We've got a few people waiting in the meeting room to say hello to us. Hello. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hi there.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Good. My son is joining me in the conference calls this morning.
Well, actually, I think he will increase the net IQ of the room there.
Oh, you've got a very good point. I think that's totally true. Net IQ goes up. That's absolutely true. So it's nice to connect with you. How do we know each other? Where's the connection?
It was Hong Kong, and I think, good grief, who was it that put us together? It will come to me.
So we met in Hong Kong, though, did we? We connected in Hong Kong.
We met in Hong Kong.
Right. Okay. And where are you now?
I'm in Sydney. I've finally made my way home.
Oh, okay. How long ago did you move to Sydney?
Literally 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's a recent decision.
Well, the decision was made about a year ago, and when we planned it, the world looked very different. But things changed very, very quickly in January, and as we got through into March, things really accelerated. And then we're here.
So far, so good. Are you enjoying it?
Look, I'm loving it. You know, I think we've been away from Sydney for 27 years in various locations doing various things.
Right.
So when I left, we had one child and one on the way. When we've returned, we have no children. They've all grown up, left home, and now doing their own things.
Wow. Well done. I'm at the beginning of the cycle. My son's 2.5, so.
Wait, just the only one?
Yes. Yeah, I always joke as far as I know. Ha ha ha. My wife loves that joke.
Yes. Yes, I used to joke that all mine was for sale. They come with their own shoes and a backpack.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It's a very expensive business, Simon.
Oh, it is, but you know, that's a good example in business, isn't it? That you invest in something, there's not always an instant cash return, but wow, what a wonderful journey it can be, right?
It is an awesome journey. It's a great journey, and they all do things that you don't expect them to
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. Well, the reason I do this is you're a great example actually of why I do this. I was just looking at my LinkedIn. I've got 16,000 people that I have connected with somehow over the last 10 years. And I thought to myself, you know, yeah, I can read people's LinkedIn profiles, you know, or I can try and actually have a real connection with people. So this is kind of what this is about, you know, just say hello to those connections and really get to know the people in my system.
I will take a leaf out of your book because I think that's an excellent thing to do. I have to say that I do not keep my LinkedIn profile up to date at all.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of the time, you know, people don't say what they're really up to. Like I look at your LinkedIn profile, it doesn't say you just moved to Australia. You know, like this, it's all new, right?
Absolutely not. I didn't say that previously I moved to Singapore and then moved to Australia.
Yeah. It doesn't mention your kids are all grown up either. You know, like there's so much context missing that personal contact can't replace really. But yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, I always also want to see if there's any way I can help people. So is there anything? What's going on?
Well, let's just think. I mean, and of course the conversation is a two-way conversation, which is how do we help you as well. So I think the plan. So what we just talked about the plan. The plan initially was to travel the world, get lots of experience, work in different places, etc. And enhance the process of travel because you get to live in the city, work in the culture, and all that sort of thing. So you know, New York, London, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, and then back home.
You turn the camera on. Do you want?
So every financial market we'd be pretty happy with golf. And now that we're in Sydney, I think we're helping banks and other institutions with structured products. So data portfolios and structured products and the technology that goes with it. We will see how that goes. It does strike me that the recent unhappiness is going to make people fundamentally reevaluate how the businesses work.
That's true.
And it's all the, and it's, when I say fundamental, I think, Simon, it's all the plumbing that for years and years we've neglected. So all the simple things like customer and how do I get them on board and meet all my regulatory requirements. And then the smarter people will take that and say, how do I meet my regulatory requirements and know more about my customer and what the metrics of what they're doing. And then I think the other forms of re-engineering the business that's going to have to go on is what do the products now look like? Because they do look very different. They all have the same name, but they're fundamentally a little bit different. You know, I will give you a very good example. I mean, the most recent example is the futures price for oil went negative.
I don't even know how that's possible. How can a product be negative?
Very simple. So if you can imagine you want to buy oil in the future, so you buy a futures contract. So it says at the end of May, I have to deliver you a barrel of oil. How much would you pay for that? And you go, well, right now I'll pay you $30. And as it gets down towards May, because there's more supply than demand, I'll be willing to pay you $18. And then I think what happened is that people started to get the oil in, and some of the people who are just merely speculating would close their positions out, get them out. But some of the people who have bought the oil and they're not netting out, they're saying, well, okay, I'm going to have this position of oil at the end of the month, and oil is physically delivered. So Simon, at the end of this month, I am going to give you a barrel of oil. And the barrel of oil is 158 litres of oil, generally traded in lots of 100. So you have 158,000 litres of oil. Where are you going to put that? So these guys had a problem, which is I've got all this oil on very long oil contracts. I will be physically delivered 1 million liters of oil. I have nowhere to put it. I can't arrange storage because storage is completely full around the world. So I will literally put it on the market, my contract back on the market, and I will pay you to take my contract because I don't want physical delivery.
So as an entrepreneur, I basically hear that there's a storage business requirement. There's a storage business there. You know, if you buy that negative, someone pays you to take the oil, you get the oil and you get and then you sort the storage out. There's a business there, right?
Yes, so I think there's been a business there for a little bit of time because oil oversupply has been there for quite a while. So you may recall that the shipping business is in dire straits. And part of the shipping business is these oil tankers. Well, as I understand the situation, every oil tanker in the world is full and parked off some harbour.
Right. Wow. Now you're thinking pirates are going to come and take all that stuff.
Yeah. So all the oil tankers are definitely full. The other thing that's full is all the storage capacity is full, and they've shut off the US pipeline and they filled it up with oil.
Wow.
So it's completely full. So if oil wasn't such a volatile material that had lots of bad properties for pollution, there would be a simple storage business in there. But it's just a really dreadful thing to try and store.
Some irony, isn't there? Some irony to all of this around how the planet is being sucked dry of products like oil, and then when the planet pushes back, the very thing that we think that keeps us alive could end up poisoning the planet and causing more problems. And now you have to pay to take a product off that everyone looked as so valuable. If you had an oil in your backyard, any country having oil was clapping their hands with joy. But
yes, I think the truth is oil is a delivery vehicle for energy, and energy is used to drive the economy. At some point in time, we're going to replace it with some other better form of energy storage.
Or the sun.
Yeah. So I think that's certainly true. I think you do see a lot more energy storage coming on.
So I'm going to let someone else into the room. There's a few people waiting in the room to say hello, so I'm going to let them in as well, just to say hello.
Yeah.
I'll let one more person in. Sometimes it can get a bit crazy if you have too many people, so I'll just let one other person in.
Oh, indeed.
Is this what I'm doing now?
But yes, but your business is doing well now. You're okay, or is it a delicate time?
Well, I mean, I think what we do, we're relatively flexible. We don't really mind what the underlying instrument that we're structuring looks like. So we're structuring less financial instruments and much more real-world things like food, food and ethanol. So that part of the business is doing relatively well.
And are you locked down in Sydney? Is it the same?
It is a form of isolation. So social distancing, yes. You have to have a good reason to be out, but you can go out for a daily walk and people won't stop you. As long as you're being sensible about things, I think it's relatively reasonable. But I think that the infection rate is something like eight new cases a day. So whatever they're doing seems to be working relatively well.
And where are your kids?
They're all in various places. I think the eldest is in London, but currently hiding out in Portsmouth.
Oh, okay.
Her fiance is in the Navy. The number two, he's an industrial designer, but living in Melbourne now. He's relatively locked down. And number three is doing his doctorate at Oxford. So he's relatively well locked down there as well.
Well, I'm in London, so 2 out of the 3. When this all dies down, it'd be nice to say hello to them. I go to Oxford quite a lot. I love going to Oxford before the lockdown.
Well, I don't know if he's doing anything that's reasonably helpful. He's doing a DPhil in politics,
right?
Setting policy, the choices you can make, how to optimise choices. I guess it's a quasi-philosophical question as well.
Well, in theory, that should be some of the most important work you could ever do if governments weren't corrupt and things weren't also swift towards getting just re-elected.
I think that the truth of it is that governments will come and go, but it's really the civil service in the UK that drives the policy.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Government sort of steers the direction and tries to get something going, and it's really the civil service that moves things along. And if there's any real problem in the UK, it's the fact that they've actually underfunded the civil service, and it's kind of gutted it and hasn't allowed them to do what it needs to do. I wouldn't advocate a government being bigger than it should be, and by the same token, I can't advocate a government being smaller than it needs to be either.
Yeah, I had an idea at one point that, you know, I think the politicians are actually the middlemen between us and getting stuff done, and they become the blocker. You know, they say things to get elected that aren't true, and they then, you know, they just block everything. But I like the idea of having what I call direct democracy, where it's like kind of on your phone, and you can make policy along with everyone else on your phone. Switzerland's doing this quite interestingly, you know.
Well, the Swiss have a culture of very devolved democracy. They vote for everything. So I think you know, the Swiss can go to the polls 100 times in a year.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. I think if you had that on your mobile phone, where you know, as a group every week made a vote on something, it's kind of interesting. Then that's a real democracy, if you ask me.
But again, it's interesting. I have to say that, you know, the debate currently in Australia is around the tracking apps for COVID. So the idea here is that you would enable your phone with an application, with an app. It would be on all the time. It doesn't track your geolocation. What it does do is that if I'm standing next to you, you have the app, it exchanges our details and it sends them to the government, to the cloud, that you and I have spent more than 15 minutes together at this point in time.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is the beginnings of 1984, right? George Orwell's kind of...
Very much.
Very much that, yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, you know, that's interesting, but you might be putting too much data where you don't want it to go. The direct democracy question is similar to that, because you're letting people know what you think. So I'm not naive to believe that we have any sense of real privacy. We don't have any sense of real privacy anymore.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic you're raising here. I think I mean, my personal take initially on any sort of data, or if people want my data, go ahead, do what you like with it. If I'm giving something for free, like Facebook, there has to be a payoff, right? So, no, I kind of get that.
Yes.
I think what you're talking about worries me a little bit more, where the data is getting into the hands of people that are going to use it in the wrong way. But one thing, what's interesting, I think, is that the tech companies have been doing this for years anyway. For example, on LinkedIn, there's a feature on LinkedIn that a lot of people don't realise, but you can actually, their idea was, if I'm near one of my LinkedIn contacts, it will ping me and let me know that this person sitting in the coffee shop you're sitting in right now is actually one of your LinkedIn contacts. Did you realise that? There's actually a feature on LinkedIn that allows you to do that. To me, that's not far off what you're kind of talking about. But what's happening is that data's going to that tech company, and who knows if they're good or bad. At least with government, especially elected ones, in theory, you know, if they're bad, you can get rid of them, you know, so if they do something bad with that data. But the tech companies, they're kind of very hard to unseat Mark Zuckerberg unless the board decides or he does something that, you know...
Yeah, very much. I mean, I think I was at a university and somebody was talking about the idea of reversing that flow of data, which is you own all of your data and you permission people to take it.
Yeah. Which is kind of the Apple model, isn't it? That's a bit more the Apple model.
Yeah, a little bit. So it's not completely. I'm trying to wall myself off. It's the give the get for the advertisers. Right. That, you know, I set myself up in this walled garden of my identity, but I'll be prepared to tell you the things I'm interested in. So you know, if you're selling Ferraris and I'm a university student, well, you're not going to get a lot out of me, so maybe you don't want to market to me. Or if I'm 84 years old and you're selling, I don't know, timeshare, I'm probably not your guy. So rather than these various convoluted ways of trying to understand what the sort of amorphous data is telling you, maybe you just come directly to me and say, this is what I'm marketing. Would it be directly relevant to you? And if it was, would you buy it? And therefore you can put a value on me and say, you're worth marketing to, or you're not worth marketing to.
I think that's very true. I think you said at the beginning of this chat about how business is going to change forever, and I think one of the ways I'd like to see a positive change is that if people are just honest about things, if people are direct about, this. I had this conversation the other day with $1.99. People actually say it's $2. Stop trying to trick everybody. And I think what you're talking about there is really interesting in the sense. I did for April Fools. You always want to do a joke on people, right? So for April Fools, I wanted to do a joke on my wife, and the joke I wanted to do was a prank phone call. And basically, so I found one of these apps where you put in the telephone number. And then it rings that person with your dog's just pooed on my garden. Why did you let this happen? That type of prank call, right? But what I really liked about the app was it came up and it basically gave me a few options. It says you can pay to use this service, which was like, they still try to do the trick that everyone can't help themselves but do. It was like 99p or something instead of £1, but okay. Yes. And then they also had this, watch these 3 ads from beginning to end. And then we'll give you a credit, 1 credit to do 1 phone call, which I thought was also, pretty interesting. And then the third option was, invite your friends to the app. So that's the beginnings of access to my data, what you're saying, And for every 100 friends you invite, you get a free credit. Which again, to me, I like the fact that one, it gives me choice. Like you're saying, if you're 80 years old and you want something for free, maybe your data's not so interesting to certain people. Maybe in the medical profession, checking your habits and what you're doing would help people develop products that are good for people in the medical field. So for me, I agree with you. I like that idea of my data is an asset. Is there a way for that asset to pay for my food, for example?
Exactly. How do you monetize your identity online?
Yes.
I think it's an interesting question. From the market's point of view, is how do they stop wasting time and get more efficient with the people they're trying to target? Because if you look at the sort of the data and metadata, it is more than an art to try and understand what it's trying to tell you about the person. And anybody with a reasonable grasp of statistics will say, this isn't statistics. You're just making an educated guess.
Well, that's another thing altogether. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time people are just making things up, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they are, because there's no complete circle, which is I've identified you, I know your pattern. This is your transaction, and this is what's turned into in terms of money. They can't really do that. They can just say, this is a group of people who buy cereal that live in this area. You want to sell cereal to these kinds of people, and then you have then you go out and you buy the entire data set of 100,000 people, and you might sell 2 boxes of cereal. But actually, if you went in there, and this is what appealed to me with this conversation, is that if somebody said, I do buy cereal, but I don't like sugary cereal, I like something healthier. Or I have a house full of sub 10-year-olds and all they do is eat sugary cereal. It helps you properly segment the market. And it also helps the poor individual say, I don't want to see sugary cereal ads. But anyway, I thought that's an interesting take of things in terms of turning the world upside down. I think there's been a lot of discussion, certainly from financial institutions, about being very digital. And I think what we found in this COVID lockdown is that actually parts of the banks are not at all digital. Right? They have a digital veneer, but behind there they've got a troop of people, whether it's in the home or whether it's distributed around some kind of network, running around with bits of paper. And I will say this, which is technology is done right, is a seriously deflationary effort. So if you did it right, technology should increase the efficiency of whatever the activity is, and it should therefore deflate the price and make everything much more accessible. My problem with that is that we're going to have an awful lot of structural unemployment.
Yep.
So,
Well, I think,
So I
yeah,
think,
so if the coronavirus
it's-
has maybe just speeded up what was going to happen anyway.
afraid of how they were going to supervise things, and now that they don't have a choice, they have to do it. I think they found actually it's not bad.
Yeah. I think once they realise they can trust their people to do the
Yes.
work, and then as long as that gets done, then I really don't see what matters.
Yeah, I find that I'm surprisingly more productive offline, out of the office than I am in the office.
Yeah, me too. I'm so much better at home, more comfortable, more relaxed, and don't get disturbed, have your own music on. And
I think you don't get disturbed. You get these solid blocks of time. I think one of the greatest lies perpetrated in the modern work environment is that you can multitask. And I think what this is also proving to me is that you can't really multitask. If you're given a document or a problem to work through, and you give it a solid 40 minutes, as opposed to switching between tasks and reading email, you are really productive.
yeah, I think a lot of companies are going to learn. They're going to have to adapt as much sooner than later. I think really, and the ones that don't, I think the ones that they're going to suffer in terms of working from home and remote working.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think it's going to change people's attitude, which is, do you have a work from home policy? What does it look like? Those that say we don't have one, I don't think they're going to get the talent. So I think a lot of people are thinking it's a pretty good thing. They're working pretty well at it.
Yeah, I think there's an element of, what's in my stream yesterday. We had this whole conversation about what's going to still be around after coronavirus and what's going to be, the end of it. And we had this debate about office environment. And my take on it was actually different to what you guys are talking about there, in the sense that it depends on what industry you're in and what business you're in, but there's still going to be a huge need for certain people to go to the office. And I think it depends on your industry. Yes. But if you're a counsellor, for example, you can do the online thing, but that personal interaction, is quite important. And I had a creative agency for 15 years, and going and having that relationship with the brand owners and the clients, and sitting in their office and understand. But there is a huge amount of people, including talent, that actually want to work in an environment. And I can talk about my niece, for example. She's working in a new startup business, and she's missing going into the office and being a part of a team. She feels lonely and isolated at home, doing it on her own.
Yes. I think that's a point. I mean, it's not binary. It's not you're in the office or you're at home. I think you're
living in Hampshire at the moment.
Yes.
I live 10 minutes away from work. Some mornings I'd go in, or some afternoons I'd go in. I'd maybe go in for a whole day once a week.
Yes.
But just having the flexibility to go in just breaks the day up, breaks the week up.
Yes, and you get to see clients, you get to see colleagues, etc. But actually, the rest of the time, you're tremendously productive at home.
Yeah.
I think that there are some sort of there are some industries, some professions that it lends itself to that. And I think these guys, they're not going to want to be 5 days a week in the office if they've got an opportunity to spend some time away from it.
I think there's going to be an interesting business in remodeling people's homes, because I can tell you, my home is a big open planned environment, and so that's been the fashion for the last 10 years, but it's not very conducive to working. I'm upstairs in my main
not unless you can co-opt the whole space.
No, I mean, it's just that, I know a few people that, for example, are starting businesses that are doing, offices in your garden, trying to create environments, because a lot of people's homes, they're not geared up for you to work in them. I mean, even my home right now, on my dining room table right now, I've got, 5 laptops, cameras, all this stuff, that's taking up our dining room table. That's meant to be in my studio, in my podcast studio, so.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I think there's opportunities, isn't there? If you start thinking about what the new world's going to look like 4 or 5 months from now, and working up into that. Luke, we've been trying to connect for a while. So
I know.
thank you so much for coming on, and thank you always for contributing and being a part of what I'm doing. So how can I help you? What's going on with you?
Yeah, so I think we've written a while ago. I've been working on my mental health e-learning startup. So that's going really well. I partnered with a company in Canada who already built basically what I was trying to build. So I'm going to be like the main UK reseller for the mental health e-learning, what they're doing. So that's really good. We're going to be targeting big enterprise companies in the UK. So yeah, I've been on holiday for the last 2 weeks as well. So I've been using that time not working on this project. So that's been really productive and fun to do.
The staycation.
So I was just wondering if you had any contacts or any advice about investment as well and funding for this. I know well-being space in terms of funding is booming at the moment. So if you have any contacts, that would be really useful. So that'd be really interesting to see what advice or input you could bring.
Yeah, on the funding side, I actually think people are making a little bit of a mistake on this, thinking that people aren't investing right now and it's a bad time to go out to raise money. I actually think the opposite. If you've got the right business in the right space, and it sounds like you have, mental health and all that sort of stuff is, I think, it's a big problem, and a lot of people are going to need a lot of help. And so I think it's the right time to go out and raise. And I think there's a lot of ways to do it. A lot of the time, people think this is the amount of money I need, and then they go out and look for that money. And what I always recommend to people is kind of go the other way and say, right, what do I need to make my business work? Money is just one piece of it often. Now, are there other elements within the makeup of that? For example, if you needed a CFO, you needed a technical person. Can your investor be that technical person? Can you bring someone in? And I've done this in my previous businesses. So I'm not a big fan of accounts. I like the vision stuff. I like the execution stuff, but I'm not a lover of accounts. But I need someone to manage the finance of the business. So often partners I brought into the business have that skill. And I've had it where they've even invested in the business and got equity and become a partner in the business. So it's just something to think about. It's not always good to have operational people as investors, but just going back and saying, right, can I bring an angel investor on board, for example, who can really bring value? And then where are those people? And reverse it that way as opposed to just looking for money. Don't know if you thought of it that way, Luke. I'm sure you have. But that's one bit of advice.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because the biggest issue for me at the moment is I'm still working full time, and I haven't got the savings to go in this full time. Obviously, what I want to do. So it's kind of I'm freelancing as well as this on the side. I've got a new freelancing client this week to work up towards being able to go into this full time. So it's just like juggling those three things at once. If my day job wasn't there, I didn't have to worry about that. That would be like the ideal situation.
Yeah, you're in a trap that a lot of people get caught in. It's very common. I think one of the elements of it is investors. I've invested in 65 startups, and I've started personally 17 businesses, so I've seen every single setup there is. But often the first question an investor will ask is, are you full time on this? And so it's kind of a chicken egg problem a little bit. And one element to think about it is, if you've taken 2 weeks off on holiday, do you have enough of a buffer? You can say 2 months, and then when you go out and raise investment, you say, yes, I'm full time on this, but in 2 months' time, I need to have raised the money. It's like chicken egg. You get what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I'm working towards with like the freelancing as well. I can do some consulting work and I'm building up that buffer. So eventually I can take the leap into doing this full time and then maybe go seek investment, or if the partnership with the company in Canada works well, just go full steam on that as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a difficult situation, but I've got options to build up that buffer.
Yeah. I think I would definitely try and do that. Equally, get your costs down. Try to manage things. Of course, not going on holiday now, so that's good. But just try to find ways to cut costs, because that's the other thing. I think a lot of people get used to a lifestyle, which means that they get it very hard to get the business off the ground because they get stuck with the costs they've burdened themselves with. But the other thing on the investor question, reach out. First of all, more than happy to share with my network once you're ready. I can certainly tell you what they're going to ask. I know what I ask. Like I just said, are you full time on this? Is definitely one of those top 5 questions. I think also, you know, the purpose of the business, which I've read your email that you sent me and stuff, so, you know, I know your business has quite a strong purpose, so you tick a box there. But then getting on platforms like angellist.com, I don't know if you know this platform.
Yeah, I joined that the other day actually, funnily enough, and set up a profile.
Perfect. Then just, you know, you can see on that platform all the angel investors, so and what their backgrounds are and what they've invested in. So you can see all the companies I've invested in, for example. You can see the sort of businesses. You can see I'm into healthcare. I've done partnerships with AIA, the largest life insurance company in the world. You know, like I like businesses that help people live healthier, happier lives. So, you know, I'm a good fit, but there's lots of good fits on that platform. And just beginning to build up a bit of a, you know, let's call it an Excel sheet of those people and what their interests are, what they last invested in, why, what their background is, how it could add value to what you're trying to do. You know, just doing that work and getting prepared for the time that you then reach out to those people is probably the next step.
Yeah, definitely. I went on to, I spent quite a bit of time just looking through AngelList, and it was just really eye-opening in terms of what the well-being space is doing with investments and what's going on there. So it's really encouraging actually to see all of that.
Good to hear. Yeah, well done. Good. Well, I just noticed a gentleman called Scott's joined, and I'm really fascinated in like how I know everybody in this network. So, Scott, how are you doing?
I'm well, Simon. It's been quite a while since I've seen you.
You're going to have to remind me, Scott. How do we know each other?
Hong Kong. I was in the hotel business and the restaurant business, I'm in the event business, and a number of other things. When you were starting out here with your marketing company for the restaurants in Soho and you know, around Hong Kong, 20 odd years ago.
Wow, Scott, thank you so much for coming on. It's so wonderful to reconnect the dots. I was just saying earlier to Wayne when he came on that, you know, I've been in business 25 years, and on my LinkedIn I'm 15,000 contacts. And you know, every time I met someone, I added it. But I've slowly, maybe I'm getting old, but slowly I look through this contact. I'm like, who is this person? Who is that person? Yeah. So that's why I've done this, to reach out and just kind of say, you know, hello everyone. How can I help you? So thanks for coming on, Scott. I noticed that Zoom might end soon, but hopefully it won't cut us all off. But what are you doing these days, Scott?
Well, I'm in the event business, you know, for many years. You know, I handle production here for the Rugby Sevens. We do a lot of sporting events. I do a lot of banking conferences, or I did. But you know, I'm jumped on. I'm just curious of what's going on in your part of the world and what's happening. We're all sitting here.
Yeah, you got cut off. Okay, folks, I'm going to have to upgrade on Zoom because my time limit was up. But anyway, guys, that's the broadcast for today. I'm sorry I got cut off from Scott and the other folks. I'll reconnect with you directly through email, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk some more. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on this morning. It's wonderful to see so many people wanting to engage, and hopefully this will continue to be a fun morning activity that we can all do together. So if you liked any of the insights today, please share it. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to make a comment in the section at the bottom of the YouTube channel. And from myself, my son Aidan, the Banana King, and my wife in the background wishing I'd stop talking, have a nice day, folks. See you soon. See you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Bye.